Hello, how you doing? So I'm back again, obviously. Here I am, and today we're going to look at some of the modules that I installed in recent videos. So that's the bearing of waves, skies, and halos. I'm mostly going to talk about halos and skies today. Plus, I've got an extra gizmo, which is going to be the subject of a later video that I want to tell you about that I've now got sitting next to all this kit. So we're going to be looking at that in a bit. Now for part of this song which I've been putting together, I've got a background going which has the sound of bells sort of struck metal work, that kind of thing, and it's being fed through, that's from Halos, and it's being fed through the Skies granular processor. So what I want to do is turn this round and switch over and let you have a look at what's going on there. And as you can see, I've actually had a bit of a move around on the Eurorack as well, so everything is just a little bit more convenient for my purposes. Okay, so let's go without any further ado. See you over by the synthesizer. Hey, how you doing? So just a quick look here at the 3 modules, now 4 modules, that I bought from the Behringer range to fit into this Eurorack, which is, never mind the camera, which is part of the System 55. Now this of course is not System 55, the other bits in the synthesizer rack here are, but I had some space, and if you go back to some of the previous videos, you'll know that that's something that is just an open invitation for me to want to fill that with something. So that's what we've got here. We've got the Halos synthesizer, we've got the from the original ones I've got the Skies granular processor, the Waves function generator, and then from those previous videos I was asking the question, what shall I do to fill in the spare 8 pitch, that horizontal pitch that I had available? And it turns out that the Surge is active, what's it called, liquid filter, fills the gap nicely. So there you go, that's all 4 of them. You may also, if you have been following my previous videos, notice that Halos, which is down here now, it was previously up here. My thinking was I wanted to get all the synthesizer oscillator things towards the left side and all the things that control those towards the right side. That's only really happened in a very general way. There is you can sort of see a division in the synth between those 2 things, but anyway. So I decided that it was just easier to have them all in a line, not only for the patch cables, but just generally, and just easier to play with like that. It's a problem, isn't it, when you're trying to get so many things to be at a convenient height and a convenient eye line and what have you. And the one thing I do find with these controls is that with all of the control names on top of the knobs, that means that I can't see the names of these. If I'm sitting back here, all of the names of the knobs are completely obscured. And I do wish, actually, that they could have put the names underneath each knob, and therefore it would be more universally visible to someone with a Eurorack, especially since so much Eurorack is either dead flat like this or at a slight angle. It's not as helpful in that way as it might have been. I've also, on the upper Eurorack in this, got the Victor oscillator, and yeah, talk about that another time. Must get round to that sometime. So anyway, there it is. Now, for the first song that I've been putting together using this new layout, I wanted an arpeggio. So I've got a G minor random arpeggio going on here. So I hope you can hear that properly. So this is using the part of the Halo synth that gets those kind of bell sounds out, and I'm also using on the left hand button here, which you can see is flashing red and yellow between triggers, that is 3-note polyphony, and it's not polyphony in the same way as we get it, but basically it means that each note can hang on. I'm just going to turn this off. Each note can hang on while the next note is being played. You don't it won't steal any notes above, below 3, so you can have 3 notes still sounding at the same time, which is great using the reverb. Of course, that's a good trick with modular generator, isn't it? If you play multiple notes very close to each other and you have a reverb connected, you'll hear them all to some degree at the same time. Not bad from one of synth. So that's on here, and on here we've got, as I mentioned, the type of sound that's being played, and it's being tuned up for that sort of mality effect. I've got, by the way, this is my incoming trigger and control voltage here. The red one is the trigger, the yellow one is the control voltage, and this is going through a multiple, and it's going into the volts per octave input, as you can see here. Then I've got a trigger input as well at wherever that's coming from. I'm using waves. I'm using some of the outputs from waves to feed back and just change it's the structure control that's changing. And just to show you what that does, if I just put a simple up, if I now change this, you can see it's a bit more of a clear note there. Oops, doing the wrong one. And now you can hear that's got a lot more complex modulation on there. If I take that right off, it's gone now. So that's the one for that. Position affects whereabouts. If you imagine you've got a bell or a metal bar or something, position affects whereabouts on the virtual piece of wood or metal or string you're actually banging to create the effect. So that's that one. This is damping, and of course, as the name suggests, that is just damping down some of the vibrations and reverb, as it were. There you go. So that was set to about there. And brightness does what it says on the tin. Effectively acting more like a filter, and of course frequency, like so. So it takes its own voltage. Every time a voltage input changes, it triggers a new note, so you don't need to use a separate trigger. Of course, if you're repeatedly strumming the same note, I've noticed that it does help to have the trigger connected. And then you've got this strum input here, which you can use to make that work better. Now there's all sorts of other modes on this, but this is the green mode. I think that says something about mallets and things doing this. Hope you can hear that okay. I'll just turn it up slightly from here. There we go. Now if I press it again, Then we're into more of the string effects. And if I just turn the structure down, you can hear the stringiness. You can mess with that all you like to get the required sound out of it. But equally, there are other modes. If you go into the right place and you hold the button down here, it will put the device into different separate modes as well. So there's an FM synthesizer on here. Let's go back into the strings and hold this down again. Well, there's your FM synthesizer actually. And then if I go into the red mode and hold this down, we get a reverb effect. And that's quite a lovely reverb using what we already had at the time. It's also bizarrely a way in which you can, by setting the controls like this and then hitting the button, now it's gone into another synthesis mode altogether. Which is allegedly supposed to be a bit of rodent-like. I don't know what you think. And then we can find our way through some that's 4-note polyphony there. So these, like a attenuators here, a lot of these have different effects depending on where you go with them. So yeah, some great stuff to be had there. I'm not using surges right now. I'll do something separate involving that. There we go, it was 3-note polyphony again. I've not quite got back, haven't quite got it back into the right mode yet. You have to do all this strange sort of Easter egg movement of all the controls to make this happen, and then you need to press this button again, and it should take me out of all that. There we go. Now we're back into that territory. How cool is that? There's just so many different effects you can get off of there. It's just really awesome. But now Waves really deserves a little setup and discussion on its own. So I'll probably do that separately and perhaps do a video with Waves and Surges together. But the other one I want to talk about here is Skies. And Skies is the, as Behringer's own website will tell you, is an homage, shall we say, to the Mutable Instruments Clouds version of this instrument. And there's so much going on here. There's so much amazing stuff. We've got pitch, size, position. We can mess about with so many bits and pieces here. There's an internal, well, there's a gain control here, which we have a little VU meter for, so we can make sure. Obviously you can overdrive that, it will let you, but it feels wrong somehow to overdrive stuff. We can change the density. We can go into random territory here. Or I can just bring it back to the middle where it's neither. Actually, the middle point on some of these controls is actually the sort of neutral, if you like, and if you take it along one way or the other, you get all sorts of other strange effects. I love all of that. I just love all that the strange little bangs and pops. It sounds like someone's playing football with a spring reverb. There we go. Let's knock up the pitch a bit. And we've got these different controls on here. We can have first of all, we can have a different size mono or stereo with different size samples, but the trade-off there is to have different resolutions as well. I think if you're messing with the sound, to be quite honest, if you're going to mess that much with the sound, then it occurs to me that if it's a bit lo-fi, well, who's going to notice? So that's one thing you can do with it. And then there's you can also then change these different effects. That's a reverb there. That's the mix, the blend. That's the stereo effect, and that's the sort of feedback. When there's some more, you use the blend button or control to turn that. The more that effect changes, so I can turn the reverb effect up and down here as I see fit. If I keep pressing that button, I can use the blend to control the amount of feedback. You can see it's really feeding back a lot there, so that's probably one to keep fairly well controlled, if I'm honest. This one controls the wet or dry, so that's so there you go, that's the original sound from Halos, and the more I turn this up, the more I'm hearing from the processor itself. And then if I can move that to do the stereo effect. You're not going to hear this really, but that will widen the stereo field and things like that. So that's just processing what's coming through right now. Let me just turn these down a bit. They are quite loud. The other thing we can do is to freeze the sample, so now it's acting purely on itself, and it's just recycling this information. So I can get it to hold and create grains around that particular point, but I've frozen it out. And it will, as I alter these controls, the density, that's a bit more random, that side, that's a bit more ordered on this side. And as I alter the texture control, it will bring out more detail, I guess you'd call it. You can order this, change the size of the grains, very small grains there, or we can extend them. To play much greater, and we can change the position within that sample. Adjusting the pitch there. There's all sorts of, obviously there are controls here, excuse me, there are controls here that will adjust, that you can plug in, and you can modulate any, just about any of those. So the density, texture, all of the controls here pretty much can be modulated. We've got a volts per octave input to help with that. We've got left and right inputs. So this is a stereo process that we can have, and we've got left and right outputs. I'm actually sending this to 2 separate mixers so I can keep the stereo field going into my main mixer here. So lots to play with, and lots of bits and pieces you can try there. Yeah, like I say, surges and waves I will come back to, because I think they deserve a bit more of a video of their own, and they're probably less well understood either as much by me as by anyone as to what they do. But I want to just show them to you, and you know, if you like them, get one, play with it, see what it'll do. Okay, a quick preview. I'm going to stop that now. But one little quick preview of another forthcoming thing is to do with this little baby here. That's right, that's the BM12 ring modulator. Now, one of my last videos that went out, I was saying how I wasn't going to really expand on this equipment any further, but then I saw this. And this is something that I've always had a thing for, a ring modulator. Never had one. Might have had a software one somewhere. Never had a hardware ring modulator. And of course, this is perhaps most well known, especially in the UK. That is most well known for being the voice modulation that creates the sound of the Daleks from Doctor Who. And if you look at Behringer's own promotional video about the ring modulator, there is a very small clip of just them, of the Daleks as well, about that. Not going to go into that, do it now. I've already been rambling for quite long enough, but we'll come back to that another time. And again, this has been used in my latest song, Ruled, which will be coming to in a video in the not too distant future. So there you go. That's everything from me for today. A quick tilt of the camera and a quick change of lens. You can see who's been talking on this time. Hello everyone. And that's great. We'll be I'll be seeing you again soon, and we will do a bit more messing with this equipment, and we'll look into some of the things that have been put together for the song Ruled, along with including the BM12. Okay, so take care, see you again.